I'm going to go through with you guys how to Photoshop your Levitation photo. So I'm going to go ahead and open Photoshop here. Do File, Open, like we always do to get the picture. Then you figure out where your picture is. Mine's on the desktop. So if I hold Command, I can select both photos at the same time and open them. And then they'll both be on the same tab here, but I can grab one and drag it out. So what I want to do now is zoom in. And then I need to go ahead and select these guys so I can drag them into the other image. So the tool that I'm going to use here is the quick selection tool right here. And right now you can see it's a plus. And I can just go ahead and click and drag and start selecting them. When I get out towards the edges, I'm going to make the tool smaller with that bracket key, so I can be a little bit more careful around the edges. Now once in a while it does mess up, like it just selected a whole bunch of the hallway out here. So what I'm going to do, remember, is hold Alt. It also says Option. And I'll turn that plus to a minus. And then I can tell, I can go over the parts that I don't want so that it can suck it back in a little bit. Oops, wrong way. And then you can get pretty specific, zoom way in and go around the edges. I'm not going to get it too perfect because that'll take me a while and you guys don't want to watch that long. Deselect this area in here. Excuse me. Get her arms selected. I don't want the stool, so I'm going to minus this out. Okay, and then I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. I think his will go a little bit easier because there's so much contrast. His clothes are darker. That looks pretty good. Again, you could zoom in more and double check it. I'm going to scoot this over. I'm going to use this tool on the top. It's called the Move tool. Click and drag and drop them over here. Now I talked about I should have taken my hallway photo, landscape or horizontal, because those guys aren't quite fitting. So what I'm going to do is go Edit, Transform, Scale. So I'm going to change their size. And then remember, if you hold the Shift key and grab the corner, they shouldn't get distorted. You want to apply the transformation. It'll ask you that when you try to do something else. Okay, so I'll get them positioned there. And then the next step is I need to add a shadow. So I'm going to use the brush tool. And up here I'm going to make sure that I'm on kind of an airbrush, not a solid. I can also turn the opacity up or down, which is how transparent it is. And I can mess with the flow, which is how much paint is coming out. I can kind of look back on my other photo if I want to see what the shadow looks like. Zoom out so I can see it more. And then I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger because I want my shadow to be not real defined. And I'm going to start to lay in that shadow. I kind of like it better once. I went over hers twice and it got a little dark, I think. So I might use my eraser. I'm going to redo hers. I liked it better before I went over it twice. Go back to the brush. try to get it in one shot versus two. I could spend a little more time, but I don't want you guys to have to watch too long. So I'm going to turn the flow up and the opacity up a little bit because I want right next to his shoe to be the darkest because that's right where his shadow touches the floor. I have kind of a funky line here, but I'm not going to take time to fix it right now. The last thing is this blur tool right here. The blur tool is nice because any hard edge, like this hard edge right here that I don't really like, make sure your strength is at 100%, otherwise it doesn't do a lot. But I can kind of smudge everything and make it not quite as harsh. It's also helpful around the edges. Like I think his shoe looks a little harsh right here. So I can smudge that, and some of that is from the way that I cut him out of the other picture. So if you see any edges that look harsh, you can blur them a little bit. You know, don't overdo it, but it'll just make it look like they fit in a little better with their surroundings. Just in case edges got it all messed up. It's just kind of blending them, and it'll look a little bit more believable. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good other than my mess up on the shadow right there that I would fix. So that is how you do levitation and get the people from one image to the other.